the judge said, and therefore the trial should be stopped. I mean, it was a way in which we could try and stop this trial. The judge said, no chance. You can go to Quetta, or you can go anywhere you like, but I'm not stopping the trial. So that's why I went to Karachi. I'm going to write to that judge and to tell him just how dangerous it is in Quetta, because I understand in the case of Ghulam Mohammed Baloch that he was taken from his lawyer's office in Quetta, and that he was killed, and that his body was found, I think, by the roadside. I'm not entirely sure about that. But to have a client taken from your office when you're interviewing your client by the intelligence services is really quite shocking there. I'm sorry, the DVD that you might have seen, had it been prepared in time, would have shown the two interviews that I conducted with Sheikh Mohammed Baloch and with Ghulam Baloch. I don't propose to read out many statements, but maybe I'll just read out only this one again, simply because it is very sad that he is dead. If you just give me one moment. Here we are. So this is the statement of Ghulam Mohammed Baloch that he gave to me. He said he was 43 years old and he came from Makran in the district of Ketch. He told me that he was the president of the Baloch National Movement and the Secretary General of the Baloch National Front. My organisation is open and democratic, and we do our campaigning amongst the masses. I believe in the democratic process. My party is not involved in a military activity. I hope that we can persuade the United Nations to assist in helping for an independent Balochistan according to the Charter of the United Nations. It is difficult for us to campaign because the Pakistan government used the military, Taliban and Al-Qaeda against anyone in Balochistan who are against the government. I know of many people who have been taken by the security forces and have disappeared. The Pakistan forces bomb our villages. Near to where I live is the village of Her. It was bombed in 2004. I went to the area and saw for myself the little houses that had been destroyed. 6 people died when a vehicle was hit. I'm aware of many other bombings in Sui, Deribukti, Kolu, Kaham, Bolan, Chagi, and Mashke. I'm sorry if I don't mind the pronunciations of it, but that's how I've got it down. The people who oppose the government, who are peaceful and democratic, are arrested, including myself. On the 3rd of December 2006 at Kalri, Bayari in Karachi, there was supposed to be a public gathering in memory of Nawab Akbar Khan Bukti. Before this gathering, police, military intelligence and the ISI arrested me in Sher Mohammed. I was taken to a place with a boundary wall. I was blindfolded and my head was covered with a bag. They took all my belongings, my ID card, my glasses, my waistcoat, everything. I can see, but I cannot read without my glasses. They put chains on my feet. A rope was tied around my hands behind my back. After half an hour, I was put in a vehicle. It felt like a car. In the car, they threatened me that they were taking me to kill me. After a distance of about 25 to 30 minutes, in the evening prayer time, the car stopped somewhere. I was handcuffed. They took me for a walk and said, upstairs, be careful. I counted that there were 15 stairs. And they then said downstairs, somewhere underground. I was put in the cell alone. I was blindfolded, my head covered with a bag. With cuffs, they tied my hands to the grills of the gate. I was given dress especially for people in places like that. They took my dress away. In the midnight, they took me away to interrogation. There were 3 or 4 of them. I couldn't see because of my blindfolded. They asked about my profile. They asked me which passport. I said Pakistan passport. They asked me if I had Afghan, Indian, British, American, Israeli passport. I said no. They asked if I visited these countries. I said no, I'd only been to the Gulf states, that is all. They asked me to tell them true or otherwise, or they would kill me forever and make me disappear. I said, what I have said is true. They then started beating me for 20 minutes with kicks, punches, and with a chitar. After that, I was again shifted to my cell. The next night, they took me again to the interrogation cell. They asked me to sit on a chair like a tin chair. They said, whatever we ask you, you tell us the truth. I said, okay. They asked me what the relationship I have with the BLA and the BLF. I said, I do not have any. I'm the president of the BNM, the Baloch National Movement. They said, we have proof that you have relations with America, Britain and Israel. We have proof that you have relations with the military and civilian leaderships. They said these countries were supporting me, and I was supporting the BLA, and that I was a terrorist. I said if I was such an important person with such contacts, they would not have brought me here. They started abusing me. 4 people held me, 2 on my hands and 2 on my feet. They beat my thighs with a heavy thing for 20 minutes. I could not stand by myself. They made me stand up, and they dragged me, and I was dropped in the cell. I was shouting. I had serious pain. My thighs were numb. They told me to put my hands on the wall of the cell and to stand up. I told them my legs were numb. They said it was an order from the officer to stand. They lifted me up, but when they let go, I fell down again. They tied my hands to the gate, and when I fell asleep, they put needles in my back to wake me up. They did not allow me to see their faces. I was blindfolded. On the 3rd night, they again take me to the interrogation cell. 2 people hold me. They asked me if I was the president of the BNN. They said how many members of the assembly we had and how many MPAs. I said we do not take part in parliamentary elections and the politics, because no matter who is elected, Musharraf and the military are not democratic and will appoint their own people. When Musharraf seized power, he abandoned the National Assembly, and then they elected provincial assemblies, including Balochistan. They asked me why I formed the BNN. Who asked me to do this? They did not give me time to answer. They started beating me with a boxing-tight glove to my head, the front and from the back. I fell down half-conscious. I had serious headache. My nose started bleeding. My nose, my eyes, my mouth. All my head had serious pain. After 15 minutes, I was taken to a cell. This process went on for 6 days. One day, they put a belt on me, which they heated up to a high temperature. It burned my neck. The belt was on the outside of my shirt, but it burned my neck. It was on for 5 minutes at a very high temperature. When they took it off, I was shaking. For 4 days, my nose bled. I asked for medical treatment, which they did not give. For bathroom, it was a toilet. I was allowed only once every 24 hours. The next night, I was asked political questions by a panel of 6. They asked me, what is nationalism and what is the nation? They wanted to know my opinion to political questions, which I answered. Sometimes I did not know, so I said no. They said to me that if Balochistan was independent, that Pakistan would make us live in desperate conditions. On the 24th of December 2006, they shifted me to somewhere else in Karachi. On the 23rd of January 2007, I was taken to an undisclosed place, which after 20 days I knew to be silly. We had problems like food to eat, but I was not tortured. For the bathroom, they gave me a bottle to pee in. I had problems with medicine. There was a corridor there. I know there were 18 cells. In the corridor, there were 26 people, including 6-year-old Nawaz married. On the 20th of September 2007, I was taken out and handed to the police. After 2 days, we were shifted to Kuzdar. On the 23rd of September 2007, I was brought to Turbat. I was charged with 4 bogus charges against me, 2 anti-state charges, 2 terrorism charges. They dropped 1 anti-state charge of terrorism. I was found innocent of the first 2, and I own bail. Nothing happens about these cases. After my disappearances, my nephew filed a petition in the High Court for my reappearance, but I was not produced at court. It was only when the Supreme Court of Pakistan ordered my reappearance that I was produced at the ATC court in Turbat. I met my lawyer for the first time just before I was produced in Turbat. He is Abdul Hamid. And that is the statement that Ghulam Muhammad Baloch gave to me. Sorry, there was one final thing. When I was in prison, my mother became ill with tension. My wife was also ill. The studies of my children were affected by my being in prison. I was very weak. I still have problems with my head, legs, teeth and thighs. So not content with the torture, once he has given this statement to me, then they kill him. And that really is shocking. To be killed for giving a statement to an English lawyer beggars belief. So I've discovered that, and I've discovered that independently of Amnesty or the International Crisis Group or anyone else. And I think that is important because I'm able to say firsthand, not that I've read it, but that I've been there, I've seen these people, and I know what is happening to the Baloch Nation. Of course, it is not easy for those of you from Balochistan. It is easier for me to take the aeroplane home tonight. I don't have to fight the cause other than to tell people about the cause and to do more than I've done in the past. But it is very difficult for those of you from Balochistan to continue fighting against the government. And it is clear that international pressure is of extreme importance to the Baloch cause, and that governments such as the British government, the American government, and the agencies of Amnesty, the International Crisis Group, have all got to be persuaded to do more. What I can say is this, is that in my long experience, I may not have known too much about Balochistan, but I know a little bit about some of the other places. I have, for example, visited South Africa on a number of occasions, and I have only this past few days come back from Palestine. I've been into Gaza with I drove an ambulance together with 147 other vehicles, and we drove through Syria and Egypt to deliver humanitarian aid to break the Israeli blockade of Gaza. So I know a little bit about it. What I am saying is this, is that the small demonstrations, the small meetings, the meetings with 2 or 3 MPs, the meetings with 2 or 3 people who have some influence, the meeting with anyone that puts forward the case for Balochistan is a very important piece of work that everyone has to do. It's not always apparent at the outset that we can win from these small matters that we take up. But I say that we can, and I think that good examples are places like South Africa. I went on my first demonstration for South Africa, because I'm so old, even before Nelson Mandela went to prison, and we called a demonstration. And I think perhaps, I don't know, maybe a dozen people turned up, and each of us carried a placard around the streets of Newcastle upon Tyne in England, where I then lived. But of course, 40 years later, it was different. There was a huge surge of support for South Africa, and it grew and it grew and it grew. So my, not advice, but what I say is, from small beginnings, many things can grow. And let me just say this, that there must be commissions of inquiry that look into what has happened and the disappearances and the tortures in Balochistan. And they can work. It is true that Pinochet managed to get away with it himself in Chile. But there was a great surge about what happened in Chile. But in the United Kingdom, it may not be apparent to a number of you sitting here, but there were atrocities committed in 1971, many other years, against the Catholics, against the people of Northern Ireland. And on the beginning of 1971, the British armed forces opened fire with their guns, and they gunned down innocent civilians in what became known in Northern Ireland as Bloody Sunday, and that was 1971. Those people didn't give up hope. In 1971, 1972, the British government put in a tribunal headed by the most senior judge of the country, who concluded that the army was not to blame, and that it was the people of Northern Ireland who were branded as terrorists in the same way that the people of Balochistan are branded as terrorists. They were to blame. But the people did not give up. And this is 40 years ago. They simply did not give up. They